The spiritual search seems to be getting an awful lot of attention these days. And I guess it's inevitable. But what are you searching for? What exactly is lost? What is it going to feel like when it's found? How would you know if it's found? Because no matter what you read in the non-duality circles, what you come up with is the same thing. There's nothing to find. If there's bliss, it's an experience, you're going to have to reject that. What is there to find? So if there's nothing to find, and it's known that there's nothing to get, then why is the search continuing? But it does, and you can't do anything about it. It's just going to keep going until it's seen to be futile. And you can't intellectually make a decision that, okay, there's nothing to find, therefore I'm going to stop. The searching will continue. It will continue. And it's just the nature of the I. So if we have a look and say, well, where did this I come from in the first place? So this is what makes this experiencing the movie or the phenomenal world, that's what makes this possible in the first place. So in the stages of the development of the I, from what you are, what you really are, what the spiritual search is trying to return to, it's outside of all of this. We can call it your divine nature, we can call it the natural state, the stateless state. But that which is beyond all of it doesn't know anything about you running around trying to find who you are or trying to do a spiritual practice. So how did this whole loop anyway begin? And is it a loop? In this diagram, it shows it like a loop, which might make sense to some folks. The I am, the observer, the activity of observing who you are, how you act out, the dramas that you used to get caught in, the position of looking at your thoughts, getting a breather, looking at your emotions. It breaks up suffering. Okay, fair enough. That's a position that's impersonal, and it's a spiritual practice that's along the progressive path. And it's something that the I does, and it gives a relative freedom. Now, when the I am or the observing is not at play, pretty much there's one of two things happening. Well, there's only one of two things happening. One is that me and my life and my story is running. My ambitions, my desires, my world, my joy, my pint of Guinness, whatever it is you're into. There is ownership here. And there is an individual who owns a life, opinions, attitudes, ambitions. From here, the potential to suffer is huge. While the joys and the fun and the crack, that might all work beautifully, it will become less and less and less absorbing, not good enough, doesn't last long enough, and sooner or later, for most people it is seen that there is this edge of suffering even through the most joyous experiences, because at some level it's just not authentic. So with the potential to suffer being the most densest state that there is, it's when it's thickest, it's when it's darkest, or there's less movement, or there is most identification with I am the body, I am my thoughts. When that's full on, well, when it's totally 100%, it's diagnosed as depression. There's a medical disorder attached to it, strangely enough. When that full-on identification with your body and your mind is playing, suffering is going to present. It's going to present, sooner or later. When a movement happens from that place, as it goes towards it, as the I is building up, mind is going outward. As it moves from that place of suffering, mind starts to go inward. This is what we call the spiritual search. When we hit this point, there might be suffering for some, for others there isn't. There's just an experience or questioning the authenticity of life or the meaning of life or the purpose, or any of these things can trigger it too. But it's a turning point where the movie is no longer that authentic, where there's something not quite good enough about all of this phenomenal world. And so mind starts to go inward. As it goes inward, we hit the place of observing, of seeing who we thought we were. And there's a distance, and there's a relative freedom. and there's a breathing space. But in the position of I am observing, it's a platform. It's impersonal, and this is personal. In this position of I am observing, you're going to go one direction unless the direct path is taken on board. Because from the position of observer, you'll be pulled into every bit of drama that happens now, or if your mind is future oriented, you'll create drama there, or you'll root it up from the past. Heaven knows, but mind plays crazy games just to reinvent an opportunity for more identification with thought. So from the position of observer, what happens is that you're constantly going into the drama and pulling out, until there's no more charge in any story. If there's no more juice, no more emotional heat attached to any story, to any thought, then the observer can be said to be established. But it's still not good enough. And you can hang out an observer, practicing being the observer for 10, 20, 30 years. There's many people who've done that. But something has stalled there. The thing about the observer, it's not good enough, because we have an I who exists, and the am is the part that exists. Existence itself. So there is an I who is separate because it exists. It's believed to exist. And this is actually the problem, because there is a concept which allows an I to be seen to be real. So then the I is looking. It's not my story, but there is an I who's looking. And that I is not authentic either. So there is no ultimate rest in observer. It's a kind of a pain-free zone. It allows, acceptance of stuff. And okay, there's a relative freedom, but let it not be good enough. It's not good enough. Sooner or later, the direct path kicks in from this zone. From the direct path, it's like you're going behind, prior. You're pointing mind away from concepts. It can't land anywhere. There's no place for it to land. But you can direct mind there. For some, that crack is very easily accessed, and for others, it makes no sense at all. For those, it makes no sense. For those people, it's that something is more immediate, closer. It's there, and you're doing too much effort to find it. It's like it's just sitting at the bottom of the water, and you're there like moving the water at the top, and it's like, hold on, don't do anything, and just rest and just settle. And something within. There's nothing to be said about it. There's nothing to be said about it. But I just want to talk about stepping back from the I am observer, because in this zone, moving back, here there can be the experience of bliss, of oneness, of love, where I had a meditation and nothing existed at all. There was no me, my partner, my parents, nobody was there, my kids weren't there. And everything was love, and everything was joy, and that's it. And it's like, that's not it at all. That's an experience. It can't be it. If you can name something, that's not what you are. That's not what you are. It's simpler than that. It's more accessible than that. You can't put yourself, on the blackboard and say, well, that's what I am. That's just another concept. That's just another creation, which comes after the idea that you exist, after the idea of existence. So any experience that happens, you can contemplate on bliss, you can contemplate on beauty, on love, on anything you like. That has that vibe of oneness that goes along here. But it's in the moving. It's too late. It already requires one to have an experience. So what to do? What you are is more immediate, more intimate, prior to, and closer than where the I started looking from. The I gets born from the sense of existence, and it does this whole loop to discover that it was only an appearance, that it wasn't ever actually real at all, and it was never who you were. So how could anything be lost? How could anything be gained? What you were is always unchanging and knows nothing about this drama, nothing at all.